Welcome back. We're moving on to part two of a story now that we reported a few weeks back when we told you about the explosion of growth in India's newspaper industry. Today, we're looking at the electronic version of that trend, the incredible rise in the number of 24-hour TV news channels there. At last count, there were more than 60 news channels on the air in India, operating in multiple languages. And analysts suggest the market is nowhere near reaching the saturation point. The Listening Post's Meenakshi Ravi now on the insatiable growth in the appetite for news, or what passes for news, on the Indian airwaves.
English, Hindi, Malayalam, covering everything from electoral politics
On the campaign trail, Narendra Modi accuses the Congress
to film world gossip.
Bollywood is gearing up for the biggest Friday of the year.
India's myriad news channels are multiplying faster than you can say television revolution. This country of 1 billion people currently has more than 60 news channels. That's more than any country in the world.
And that's not all. Market analysts are predicting that the number of news channels is likely to double in the next 2 years. They're talking about 120 news channels broadcasting in 16 languages, all in one country.
Indian TV screens were not always this vibrant. Up until 1990, the airwaves were monopolized by the state broadcaster, Doordarshan. But in 1991, the opening up of the Indian economy had international satellite channels like Rupert Murdoch's Star TV and news channels like CNN and BBC flooding Indian airwaves. It wasn't long before India's private media entrepreneurs were jumping onto the TV bandwagon.
Hello and welcome to your favorite show, Profit at Night. 60 minutes of absolutely non-stop business action, all the top stories of the day, and lots of exclusives.
Private news television has brought a totally different perspective for Indian news viewers who, 20 years ago, had only sterile state government-edited news.
When I launched the first private Hindi news bulletin here for ZTV, that time we had only Doordarshan, which was giving the government news, and it was pretty focused. It was limited to the ministers cutting ribbons, giving lectures, seminars. The action in news was missing.
करेले से पॉलीपेप्टाइड के नाम से एक ड्रग का आविष्कार किया है जो डायबिटीज.
You can see things that you didn't see before, even very simple things. You can see the way a politician looks, the way he interacts. You can see what's happening in your houses of parliament and legislature, and just the sight of how they behave is an education for the voter.
The day we launched the first news bulletin, the ruling Congress party was having an annual session, and there was a big fight and people were beating each other, clothes were torn, fists were there, bleeding noses, but the government TV would have not shown it. And the first day of our telecast we showed it, and really it was a hit.
TV news has become even more popular in India, with more and more anchors speaking to viewers in their own language.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये शिक्षण क्षेत्रात सध्या वेगवेगळे प्रयोग केले जातात.
महान व्यक्तियागिद्द Dr. Rajkumar.
With 25 states and almost as many languages, India presents tremendous opportunities for regional news channels.
There was virtually no local news, neither in the newspapers nor on television. Today you're finding local channels being launched. Regional language news is kicking in. So I guess we are like any other news market in the world, which is mature television news market. Local channels become a driver for consumption.
The competition for ratings that goes on around the world is nothing compared to what happens in India. You have all these news channels and more to come. Couple that with a fascination for celebrity and scandal and intense competition, and you have a recipe for sensationalism.
मगर बन गई बेगुनाहों के गले का फंदा. आज मामला है दिल्ली के एक टेक्सटाइल इंजीनियर स्वरूप सरकार का.
I've seen a decline in what the Hindi, particularly in what the Hindi news channels do. A decline in the sense that they're extremely sensation driven. That never used to happen before. That's happening with competition.
The truth is, nearly half the viewership of news stations, most of them, comes from non-news content, such as Bollywood, crime, cricket, comedy, right? Which is not something you'll expect to, watch on a news station, right? But that's the way it is. People watch.
All right, like we said, we'll try and explore what is it that Master Blaster Sachin Tendulkar is getting wrong in his yoga asanas. Joining us here in our studios is a yoga expert, Sunil Singh.
The truth is, so now most of our news stations are, a nice mishmash of all sorts of contents, right? People also get to see news, right? But if you ask me, is this pure news? Not really.
The complaints of Indian TV consumers echo complaints of news junkies the world over. It's just that with 60 news channels, they have much more to complain about.
What do you think is wrong with Indian news channels at the moment?
The fact that they're 24 hours, I think it's foolish. It's just about filling in time then, news that's not required, that's what comes in.
और अब से थोड़ी देर बाद हम आपको मिलवाएंगे कुछ ऐसे लोगों से जो बजाते हैं सीटी। क्या है इन लोगों के सीटी बजाने का राज? क्यों बजाते हैं ये सीटियां? आपको बताएंगे स्पेशल रिपोर्ट में ठीक 8 बजे।
And they lose focus. They lose focus from main things, like maybe if there's a bomb blast and there's a film star's marriage, then they go to the film star's marriage rather than focusing on the bomb blast.
But speak to those who run the news, and they say that the chase for ratings hasn't harmed India's news industry at all.
The news is not boring anymore. And that's why more and more people in this country are watching news television. Every day the number is growing.
I think that intense competition is overtaking any particular, bias that one has even the time to build into your news. I don't think people have the time. They have to compete. There are 6 other channels vying for the same bit of news at every point of time.
The show part of the news is becoming more evident. Most channels are making great efforts to keep the eyeballs engaged by giving the viewers more of fashion ramp and gossip, page 3 and gossip, and masquerading that as important news.
For Indian news TV, it's been a journey from one extreme to another. From boring and censored state-written news that few care to watch, to an oversupply of trivia and gloss, it seems that the news itself is beginning to look more like Bollywood.
More Global Village Voices now on India and the 24-hour news phenomenon.
For the number of channels we have today available, I think it's more of confusion for everybody because the quality has really gone down. If we could have a fewer channels and quality programs, that would have been much better.
These days, you have 24 hours news channels and you can't name them. There's so many, but the thing is, you get all sorts of breaking news which aren't really breaking. It breaks your brain, cat is lost and the dog's gone for a walk, all sorts of news. So that's the quality you're getting these days.
Finally, we're in the first few days of an Olympic year, and the Beijing Games will be one of the world's biggest news stories in 2008. So here's a snippet from a Japanese television show on some of the events you can look forward to seeing. And in an age of computerized special effects, the people on stage are a bit of a throwback to the age of human effects. We're leaving you, as always, with our Internet Video of the Week, and we'll see you next time at the Listening Post.